Hello, Matt here, just dropping in before the interview with Pete Stanton from Bipolar Scotland. In this interview, Pete gives his views and reflections on living with bipolar disorder, but would like to add that these views are his and not the views of Bipolar Scotland. I also wanted to let you know in advance that we did mention some words and phrases during this podcast that may be offensive to some people. They aren't something we mention carelessly or callously, but rather to give context to a wider conversation about stigma and the impact of language, and we did take care to give the topics discussed the seriousness they deserve. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to Creating Hope in Our Community, Healthy and Happy and Camglen Radio's campaign for promoting good well-being and ultimately suicide prevention. Today I'm speaking with Pete Stanton, Communication Officer at Bipolar Scotland. Pete is going to be telling us about Bipolar Scotland, the work that they do in supporting people with bipolar disorder, and we'll spend some time talking about bipolar disorder too. Pete, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks, Matt. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks, not too bad. First of all, can you tell us a bit about bipolar disorder and also how Bipolar Scotland supports people living with this condition?
Sure, of course. So bipolar disorder, formerly known as manic depression up until a wee while ago, which is a clinical term a wee while ago, is basically a mood disorder. So what it means is that, I don't think anybody really knows precisely like what it is in the sense of like a brain chemistry type thing, or like where it comes from or why it happens. Like people think, researchers, psychiatrists, these guys, and sort of anecdotal sort of evidence suggests that it might be hereditary, but it can also be like triggered by environmental factors, or like for instance, recreational drugs have been known to cause manic episodes, but that's getting into things a wee bit. So basically, the top line is that it's a mood disorder, and a lot of people think of it as, like the sort of the common cultural sort of, you're a bit bipolar type thing means that you're a bit up, you're a wee bit down, or even more general than that, you're a wee bit unpredictable. So it's mainly seen as a sort of the preserve of people who are, not quite there, or just a wee bit sort of all over the place. It's also commonly associated with creativity and artists. Van Gogh is thought to have been bipolar. So is Rabbie Burns. He's the Rabbie Burns Foundation, I think it's called, or the patrons of Bipolar Scotland. So it's always a bit of a tricky sort of situation, like posthumously, diagnosing somebody. But it's associated with that, but it's also important to say that it's not necessarily, it's not, it's a causation correlation thing. It doesn't necessarily mean that if you have bipolar, you will be like a creative genius like Rabbie Burns or Van Gogh, but it, you might not be creative at all, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that it's not a preserve, but there does seem to be a sort of heightened creativity associated with it often. So how does bipolar disorder manifest? Well, it can manifest in basically two main ways. One is, three main ways. One is a manic episode, which is a very, very heightened sort of euphoric kind of state where a person can experience delusions. You can hear things, you can see things, believe things that aren't there, so there's a lot of paranoia. The sort of level below that is called hypomania, meaning below mania. Which basically means that you're still quite up and like overly energetic. Maybe you're not sleeping a lot, and you're maybe coming up with a lot of ideas, ideas and plans and all that kind of stuff, and everything feels really good. Your talking's probably quite accelerated, and you find it difficult to settle on a single thought for too long. So that's called hypomania. And the reason that's not mania is because you're not experiencing, delusions, and it's not, you're still relatively sane, I suppose, so you're probably not going to get sectioned, which means being forcibly detained under the Mental Health Act in a psychiatric hospital. So the level below that is just basically being normal, everyday normal kind of thing. But then below that you get depression, and this is another sort of common misconception, is the difference between unipolar depression and bipolar depression. Unipolar depression essentially is normal depression. Not to take anything away from normal depression, but it's not a value judgment thing. It's just they're two separate things. They manifest differently. So below that is a kind of sort of really sort of deep, serious depression where there's suicidal thoughts. There's a sense of hopelessness. A lot of people find it difficult to function, to get out of bed and to hold down jobs and maintain relationships, that kind of thing. And I suppose the real kicker with bipolar is that those kind of things can happen just whenever, so some things can make a manic episode happen. Some people experience what's called sort of mixed symptoms, or like mixed episodes, which is where you can be sort of experiencing like a very high feeling like a manic episode and a very low feeling like a sort of bipolar depressive episode simultaneously. And it's more common that people sort of have these acute sort of these acute episodes, So, for instance, I've got bipolar disorder, and I've had 3 like really serious manic episodes that all 3 of them have landed me in secure units in psychiatric hospitals. So that's the being sectioned thing. It's basically being arrested and chucked in the back of a police van and taken to a hospital instead of a jail. It's not a pleasant experience, and I don't recommend it. It's from a personal point of view, I'm what I would describe as quite high functioning, in the sense that I can, like, especially during the more depressive episodes, I can sort of force myself to like function. I can go to work, I can get up, I can get washed, I can sort of like basically kind of grin and bear it a wee bit. A lot of people aren't as lucky as that. That's more of a sort of an anecdotally recognised part of bipolar disorder, the high functioning thing. I've always felt that, and that's the reason for that is that it's not been established through enough sort of like rigorous research and testing and all that kind of thing, experimentation and things. So it's fair enough. And that's all dependent on investment. So I feel like I've gone off on quite a tangent.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's a lot of information.
Yeah. So I mean, that's quite a sort of like quick overview of bipolar disorder and a quick overview of my experience of it. I've probably missed things out, and if there's somebody listening to this who has bipolar and I've not described their experience, then I apologise. I'm not a bipolar expert.
I guess it sounds like you're an expert in your version of bipolar.
I mean, I would say I was an expert in my, sort of experience of it, in so far as I can be, based on the limited understanding I have both of my experiences and why they happened, and also of bipolar disorder. If you want like a really full, proper breakdown of it, you really need to speak to a psychiatrist.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your or some information about your personal experience of it. It sounds like bipolar disorder can really affect people in very different ways.
Yeah, absolutely,
across the board.
I mean, this is the thing. It's like so. It makes it difficult to talk about without comparing it to other things, to make it easier to understand. A good one's cancer. I'm not saying it's as serious as cancer. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. That depends. If you jump off a bridge because you've got bipolar disorder, some might say it's terminal. Who knows? That's again a bit of a sort of situational value judgment.
Of course.
But what's useful with the cancer comparison is that cancer isn't one thing. There's different types of cancer. It manifests in different ways. Some are more dangerous than others. Bipolar isn't as there's not as many iterations of bipolar as there are of cancer. So it's a bit of a faulty analogy in that respect. But it does affect people in different ways, and it can be very, very, very destructive. Not just the obviously destructive way is if you think about suicide in relation to people experiencing extremely low moods and extreme depressions. through bipolar disorder, but also it can be really destructive through manic episodes, because if you're manic, then it means you engage in really risky behavior, dangerous behavior, both physically, dangerous sexual behavior. You become quite what's called hypersexual. So you maybe take risks with relationships and with other people that you wouldn't otherwise do. So that can damage, obviously, like romantic relationships. It can damage personal relationships, friendships, that kind of thing. You might get into fights, so you might sort of like think that somebody is trying to do something, because you're quite paranoid, or sometimes you're quite delusional. So you think that this person's doing something within the little film that's going on in your head. And you're quite emotional as well. So you can be fine 1 minute and then you can be, very not fine, I did some mad stuff, man. I don't know if I should talk about it right now, but it's
talk about what you're comfortable talking about.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'll just say that I'm very, very, very lucky that I wasn't like severely injured.
Okay.
Or got my head kicked in on multiple occasions. I think, to be honest, the only reason I didn't was because I was so mental. Okay. I think it's that kind of Scottish thing where people go, "Well, you can't fight that guy. He's like too mad." You never know what he would do.
Yeah.
I think that weird thing that was almost like a sort of like force field. Oddly, it's like they were just
makes
like,
sense.
when you see something, you're just like, just leave him alone. It's not worth getting involved. That guy's so obviously something wrong with that guy. Just Anyway, who knows? But yeah. So I should probably say a little bit about what Bipolar Scotland does. So I've been working there for only about 3 months now. My background is in media, film and TV, broadcast, documentaries mostly. And I started working there about July, and I sort of look after the communications, so I do all the social media, I do stuff like this. And I'm not a spokesperson as such, as I said, but it's like we're quite a small charity, so it's it's down to me to do this kind of stuff. Not that I don't want to, obviously.
No, of course.
But so basically what Bipolar Scotland is about 30 odd years old. So Bipolar Scotland provides quite a lot of services for free. Free at the point of use, for sure. You can always donate if you want to, but you can join for nothing. And you join at our website, bipolarscotland.org.uk. And
you're answering my next question just now, but that's great. Go for it.
And through the website, you can access our services. And the first service, for instance, that I came in contact with through Bipolar Scotland was their group support. So the support groups. So basically, it's like it's a support group. You go to the group, and everyone else there, sometimes including, sometimes not, the facilitators have lived experience with bipolar disorder, and you basically just talk about what's sort of going on, and you sort of it's just a group discussion. It's like they're in person, they're also online. They cover the whole country, so there's basically something there for everyone. We do what's called self-management training, which is also, again, you can do like in person or online. The in person's a couple of days, the online's a few evenings. And that's basically learning techniques to, like, really, really practical techniques to help you get through your day and help you sort of, basically manage your life. That's what I call self-management. It's like manage your life a bit better, but it's all bipolar specific, obviously. And we also do something called Beyond Diagnosis. So that's like, for people who have just been diagnosed, you get sort of help, sort of come to terms with it and all that kind of thing, support and that kind of thing, and some guidance. And there's also a program called Momentum Works, which is quite new, which is support for bipolar people specific to employment. So if you're having problems or again, you've just been diagnosed, you don't know how you're going to talk to your employer about it. Do you talk to your employer about it? There's a lot of stigma still. That's something I did want to talk about. But yeah, that's kind of, I'm most likely forgetting something because, it sounds a wee bit like, we're so great, we do loads of stuff.
It sounds like you are so great and do lots of stuff though.
But there is quite a lot of resources available. And we're just about to have our conference tomorrow, which will be too late, I'm sure, by the time this goes out. But it's for our first conference since before COVID.
Wow.
Through in Edinburgh, so that's tomorrow. And got some speakers sold out, which is good. and that would be quite nice, I think, because again, it's just, I suppose, like the main purpose of the charity is to help people with bipolar disorder, in whatever way we think is either the most effective or we can actually do. Obviously, there's loads of stuff we want to do, but maybe can't because, we're a charity, and it's like, it's, you can only do, you're working based on what kind of funding you get.
Of course.
Peer support is another big one. Sorry, I forgot.
I was going to come back to that. Yeah, because you mentioned your support groups.
Yeah.
As one of the kind of first things that was the first thing you mentioned, really. What is the value of that peer support to people who come along to them?
So peer support is really good because it's slightly different to the support group in the sense that if you go to the support group, that kind of environment's not for everyone. Mm-hmm. It might be good to listen, you might get something out of that, but you might not feel comfortable talking in front of a group of other people, and that's fair enough. I don't always feel comfortable, but peer support is where you basically get you get paired up with a peer support worker. Okay. And you speak to them on Zoom or whatever sort of video conferencing you want to use, and you've got you get an hour session a week for a number of months, or until you feel you don't need it anymore, or if you still feel you do need it, then you keep going. You don't get chucked out, but basically, I did it as well, and it's like, so you basically, that's really good because that's really targeted to you. It's like the groups can be quite a lot more general, and it's actually sometimes difficult to talk about personal things in a group setting, because it's private sometimes, mm-hmm. and also because, sometimes you've got different personalities, maybe, it's like, it's more of a general discussion in a group setting, but the peer support is dedicated one-to-one support,
okay.
And again, that's free. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, and we've got dedicated, professional peer support workers. I'm going to get this wrong. I want to say all of, no, I don't think they all have, but the majority have lived experience with bipolar, whether that's with themselves or with, a close friend or relative, mm-hmm. or a partner, mm-hmm. or something like that.
And that goes a long way, doesn't it? I guess, because like you say, there is still a lot of stigma, and I think it'd be good to discuss that as well, and maybe a lack of understanding too, and it must be quite scary for someone newly diagnosed.
Yeah, totally. I think the stigma and lack of understanding are like inextricably linked. I think there is stigma because there is a lack of understanding, and it's like, and that's not unique to bipolar disorder, but I often feel that bipolar disorder is like one of the sort of like the final frontiers of things it's all right to be, pretty, ignorant and prejudiced about.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
Like you can't be really, some people can obviously, but it's like, if you take a broader view over, say, like the last 50 years, mm-hmm. you used to be able to say, people were, people were racist, they were bigots, they were homophobic, whatever, and then it's slowly sort of whittled down, to what's acceptable, and like mental illness is kind of like the last bastion mm-hmm. of acceptable prejudice.
Totally. Hello, just a reminder, or to let you know if you missed the first part of the show, that coming up shortly are some words and phrases that may be dated or offensive to you, the listener. They are mentioned within a bigger conversation around the impact of language and references the fact that some language now deemed offensive was once in common vernacular, and we reflect upon why society at large has moved away from certain words or phrases. I would also like to add that Pete's reflections on living with bipolar disorder are his views and not the views of Bipolar Scotland. Back to the show. I was thinking about this recently, and it was kind of informed by a bit of a debate I had with someone. They'll know who they are when they hear this. But
sounds ominous.
Yeah, but I can't remember the last time I heard someone use the word, and I hope the context justifies what I'm saying here, the word gay to describe something to be used as a pejorative. I can't remember the last time someone did that.
There's exactly. And again, disclaimer. Think about the context, like gay, homo, mm-hmm. retard, I won't say the racist ones because, frankly, I don't want to. Everyone knows what they are, mm-hmm. But those kind of things. And you still get a wee bit of the old kind of like, I'm just, as my friend calls it, a jab and a joke. I'm just joking, I'm just, mm-hmm. I'm just a freedom of speech, blah, blah, blah. And, let's not get into a freedom of speech debate, because that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, not just now.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is that it's like, because it's like, I think about, and I'm not saying the two experiences are the same because they're not, but like, the way like black people reclaimed the N-word, within their communities. It's like, I'm quite keen on like reclaiming like, words like mental and crazy, and I sometimes, and I can be a wee bit sort of like, a wee bit sort of poking the bear a wee bit, and sometimes I'll say it to people just to see what they think. And the same because like my sister's gay, and sometimes I'll just say like, oh, my sister's wife, blah 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 blah, just to see if people go, oh, because sometimes I just like sort of like smacking people about the face a wee bit, which isn't very healthy or evolved, but there you go, it is what it is. But I like the idea of like, because people will go, it's like, because like people say, oh, that's crazy or that's mental, and I get it because I say it and I've said it, and it's like, because it is, some things are like crazy, because what is the definition of crazy? It's like, it's something that, fundamentally isn't true, something that's illogical, something that doesn't make any sense. It's nuts, it's crazy, it's bonkers. All those words. And I love all those words, because sometimes, especially like, see if you're talking about, as we were earlier, like, a manic episode, it's easy and good and useful sometimes to use clinical language like manic episode or delusional or paranoid or unsafe or hypersexual or risky behavior, that kind of, like the kind of stuff that that you would hear from a psychiatrist or from a mental health professional. I think sometimes when you're talking about your own experience, it's a bit like the N-word thing. It's a bit like, I can say it.
Well, yeah, because you did say it.
You did talk
earlier on in this conversation. You talked about one of your manic episodes, and you used the words that I was a bit mental, and I've been trying to, as a person, move away from that language. I had trying not to say things like I had a mental weekend. You used it, and I thought, fair enough, because it's your experience.
Yeah, and do you know what? It was mental. Right, it was like, it's because like the psychiatric language is great because it's very precise, but it's not very descriptive and it's not very evocative, But like words like bonkers, nuts, mental, crazy, like it was that, it's like that's what those words are for, and it's like it was that I was crazy, I was genuinely like I wasn't like I was not of this world, So it's like, so that's fine. I think. It's like anything. It's like, it's about context. I don't think it's necessary, and I'm not asking people to. And I don't really agree with the idea of like policing yourself to death. Where you feel like you can't say anything, because that then ends up having, as we see now so much in society, ends up having a sort of counterproductive thing where people go, oh, you can't say anything anymore. All I want to do is like say the N-word and punch gay people, and you're like that. And it's like, whoa. Like, where did this, like, it's like, how are the, where how did we get there so quickly? So that can actually end up being counterproductive. So it's about context. Like if I told somebody that story and they said, you're effing mental, then I would feel offended by that. Not because they had used the same word, because a word is a tool. Yeah. It's how you use it. It's like a knife is either great for, you could either be a Michelin star chef or you could be a murderer. Is it, it's like, what's going on?
It's context, really,
it's context.
Isn't it?
So context is everything. So if you said I had a mental weekend, I wouldn't think twice about that, because I'd think, oh, you probably did have a mental weekend. It sounds pretty, it sounds pretty mental, and it's like, because it's like, you can't, and nor should you, I don't think, police what people say. I think it's about, and I think it's about context and it's about intention. If you're trying to belittle somebody or offend somebody or make somebody feel less than, then you probably should, look at a little bit closer at how you communicate with people. But if you're just using a descriptive word from the English language, out of context of something else, it's like, I won't say it, but it's like the C word in Scotland is a great example of that.
Kind of just means a person.
It means a person. It can mean a lot of different things. It can mean a good person, it can mean a bad person. It can mean somebody you know, somebody you hate, somebody you like, somebody you love. It's like trying to explain that kind of thing to, like, say, an American person is very difficult, because they've got an entrenched, a different codified idea of what that word means. And you say, look, that's not what it means here, right? So it's like, so actually what you think it means isn't what that guy means when he says it, so don't be angry at that guy.
Yeah, there's a good Frankie Boyle joke where he talks about the F word, and a lot of places, I wouldn't use it in a radio context, for example, but he made a good joke that in Glasgow and in Scotland probably as well, the F word is just a warning that a noun is coming.
It's a warning a noun is coming. It's also punctuation.
Yep.
It's like it's like, you know, when people say it's just like, and again it's about context. So it's like if I like if I went to like, you know, Utah or something and said that guy is a good C word, you know, I would expect to get into trouble.
Yes,
you know,
or to have it
questioned at least. And people say, "Why did you say that?" And especially in America, because they've got a fixation with that one word, so baked in with, you know, the patriarchy, misogyny, and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure, but it's like it's a bit of virtue signaling there. I'm such a feminist, you know. But it's like it's context. Whereas if I was anywhere in Scotland, I wouldn't think twice, you know. And usually, I think if somebody said you shouldn't say that, they would be in the minority.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I guess, you know, on that, kind of like what you said, you know, and I think you did actually say this, it's not, I also think it's helpful to jump down someone's throat if they use a bit of language that you don't agree with.
This is the thing, and this is one of the things, I mean, I consider myself to be quite a sort of, you know, woke, left-wing kind of, you know, sort of, you know, hippie. No, I'm not a hippie because I've, you know, don't enough hair to be a hippie, but it's like, you know, I'm definitely on that side of the political spectrum. But I think one of the things we collectively on that side of this political spectrum do exceptionally badly is communication. You know, oddly enough, communications officer, etc. But it's like, you know, like if you're wanting to change someone's behaviour, don't make them feel like an idiot.
Yeah.
You know, or make them feel bad, essentially, right? Because you've lost them at that point.
Yeah.
Because then they're going to entrench. They might not even know what they're doing for the start. Like it's like, are they actually like, you know, trying to be offensive? That's a separate thing. Are they being thoughtless? That's quite different. You know, and if somebody's being thoughtless, you know, if you call them like racist, you're just going to push them away.
Get their back up, really.
You get it back because they might not be. They might be, and even if they are, I mean, some people deserve to be called out. Absolutely, 100%. Depends on the context. If it's a person in political life, if it's somebody you know, is that the best sort of like, you know, place to start having a conversation by basically punching them in the face, metaphorically?
Yeah, I think if you, I guess it can be quite tricky to do it and to challenge things, challenge stigma, and I guess that brings us back to the original topic. Challenge the stigma in such a way that the person doesn't feel that they need to defend themselves.
I think it's like it's like you know the DEFCON system. You know,
I'm vaguely familiar.
Right, so the DEFCON system is a system for nuclear readiness, the alert. It's like, confusingly, I think DEFCON 5 is the worst. You know,
I thought it was DEFCON 1 that was
exactly.
worst.
I think I always get it wrong. It's like it's like first and second cousins. Like I've tried to work out a million times and I still don't get it. But it's like, so you know, it's like, so DEFCON 1 or DEFCON 5 or whatever is like there is no nuclear. There's no threat. So like nuclear readiness reduced. DEFCON 5 is or DEFCON 1. I'm sure somebody's going, actually it's DEFCON 5. You know, right? So let's say for argument's DEFCON 5. DEFCON 5 is like, you know, this is pretty bad. We're about to launch some nukes at people, right? I don't think we should start at DEFCON 5. You know,
no.
I don't think we should start with, just so you know, I've sent some nuclear weapons your way. You know, I think it should be maybe DEFCON 2, which is like, do you realise that what you're doing is making us maybe want to fire some nuclear weapons? You know, and if they keep going, then fine, go DEFCON 5, call them whatever you like, and you know, feel great about it, whatever. Because at that point, you've lost them. You're never going to get them. You know, so it's maybe better that, and some of those people only listen to, you know, being frightened a wee bit and being slapped about for various different messed up psychological reasons.
And I guess being made to feel a bit uncomfortable about maybe the language that they've chosen to use. And
it's like what's the goal? You know, I sort of like mentioned virtue signaling earlier. It's like, is it, you know, is the goal so that other people see you being very virtuous, or is the goal that person interrogates their behaviour a bit and maybe then has a wee think about it, which is basically the most you can hope for. Like, you're not going to, and nor do you really have the right to change somebody else's behaviour, but you do have the right to challenge their behaviour and say, look, have you realised that what you're saying feels quite, you know, like, if I, like, do you know, if I do, or if I didn't, if I had like a mental illness, would you still be comfortable with what you said?
Yeah.
That's it. And if they're a relatively decent person, which I do believe most people are, to be honest, apart from like the yahoos on both sides of the spectrum, right? I think most people are just a wee bit sort of like thoughtless and are just used to saying certain things, and that's why we've had this change over the last few decades of actually, you probably shouldn't say that, man. It's not really cool, because that's the bit, like, you want it to be you want it to be like a virus. You want it to be self-propagating. You want that guy then or that woman then to say to their pals, actually, do you know what, I was talking to actually, maybe should we just not make, should we just not say it? It's not very nice, let's just not say it.
I think using the word gay as a pejorative, for example, is a good example of that, because I was guilty of it when I was younger.
So was I.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would have been.
I watched too much South Park.
Right. And then eventually, I think we kind of said to ourselves, look, what are we actually saying here? Because I think the majority of people who used that word in that way weren't homophobic, but we started to say to ourselves, what is the impact of what I'm saying here?
Exactly. And I think that's exactly it, is that you say things without thinking, and because you don't know what you're saying, you don't know you're being homophobic, because maybe you don't. I mean, I grew up in Ayrshire and I didn't know a lot of openly, right? I didn't know lots of out and proud gay people. Turns out my sister's gay, I don't know if she knew, so it's like, so you just said it because it was funny and people laughed and it was on the telly,
Yeah.
But
everyone was doing it at school.
Everyone was doing it. That's gay. Right. Okay. Fine. But then when you realize, or it's explained to you that it's actually pejorative because it's being used as an insult, and it's then sort of conflating the idea of being like a bad person with being a gay person,
or a less than
exactly. It's like exactly, less than, because of that. You sort of go, oh. And then you sort of, and most people I think go, oh, right, actually, do you know what, guys, so we just call time on the whole gay
like
thing.
I say, I can't remember the last time I've heard someone use it in that way.
Exactly.
Certainly not in 10 years.
And that's not because people went shouting and screaming and told people that, they were like homophobic and they should be ashamed of themselves and they're going to hell and all this kind of stuff. Because, I know I wasn't homophobic. I know I was thoughtless. And I know I really genuinely hadn't considered it from a gay person's point of view. I just hadn't thought of it enough, and I didn't know enough. So I said it without thinking. But that means that I was able to be educated. And as soon as I was educated, and as soon as it's like, we just say that to a gay person, and you go, probably not. Why? And you go, oh, because I'd be worried about offending them. Why are you worried about offending them? Oh, because it's probably not very nice. There you go. And it's like, right, cool. And it's like, those are skills that can then, like, you don't have to go around every single person in Scotland going, hello, it's me from the language police. I'd like to have it's like that then just goes and does all the heavy lifting for you, because it's the right thing to do. And most people respond to that because it's logical and it's reasonable and it's nice, and most people are generally like that. And they go, oh God, actually, it's a bit out of date, that, isn't it? It's a bit kind of,
we don't do that anymore.
We don't do that anymore. I know we used to, but we didn't know what we were doing then. Basically, I mean, like, talking about, my mum used to put me in the back of a Volvo Estate with no seatbelt, right, and just drive about. Because it was the 80s, right? And you didn't know what you were doing in those days. Did that mean she wanted me to die? Doubt it. Not. And would she do it today? Absolutely. Absolutely not.
I guess we'll never have a collective opinion on, should we be policing? I don't think it's helpful to police people's language. And I think you've kind of alluded to this already, what is the impact of policing language? Do you get people frustrated to a point where they don't feel they can say anything and maybe react to it? And is that counterproductive then?
I just think human nature, right, is that you're going to dig your heels in. I'm going to say it more. Because I don't like being told what to do and what to say. And it's like, well, and part of me goes, I get that, I get why you would think that. And I think that's why people get pushed farther and farther to, various different, ends of the whatever political spectrum you believe in, It's like, but what I think about is efficacy. It's like, does it work? If it works, cool, do it. If calling people names and it's like, which is basically what they're doing to you. If doing that works, then cool, all power to you. But I don't think it does, and I think we can see quite clearly that it doesn't. you know. But you know, I'm not an expert. I'm opinionated, obviously, and I should say the opinions here are not the opinions of Bipolar Scotland or Dot Limited
or Healthy and Happy.
Yeah, you know what I mean. But it's like it's like I don't really care as long as it works, and as long as we're heading in the right direction. So if the tactics work, great. But if they don't, why are you doing them?
Yeah.
And that's a question for you. You know, is it what is it that makes you feel good about doing it if it's not about efficacy?
I think, you know, in terms of like mine, like
I don't mean you personally.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's something I've been thinking about as well. You know, thinking about, you know, so I mentioned having a conversation about this with someone recently, and you know, I kind of think, you know, what am I saying? What is the language that I use? And whether or not other people find that language offensive, or whether or not other people feel that the context justifies it. Like, how am I presenting myself?
But this is the thing. It's like I just think you're always going to get it wrong somehow, some way. Like everyone's a work in progress, right? What's important is that you're trying and that you're thinking, and you've got enough sort of self-reflection and insight into yourself to think, oh, what? Because you're not. And it's like, and I don't think it's about striving for perfection either. It's just the important thing is that people are aware of it and thinking about it and trying, because that's how things change. It's not going to change overnight, you know. Yeah. But it's like the important thing is that you've got that impulse. And this time I'm talking about you. So you've got that impulse that go, all right, actually, if I or you go away. And I've done it loads of times. I shouldn't have said that. Maybe they thought this. A lot of the time, people are too busy thinking about their own stuff to be thinking about what you said to them.
Yeah. I can think of a few times where I've believed I've put my foot in my mouth. And
totally. I've done that. I've sent the text. I'm so sorry. I should never have said that. And they're like, what? Who are you? You know.
I don't remember you saying that. All right.
Exactly. Okay, I didn't even hear that. And you're like, I've been worried about that for days. You know. But that's the thing. And the weird thing is so those are the people you want. It's like the undecided voters, right? Those are the ones you want. Like, you know, the hardcore radicals. You're never gonna convince because they're hardcore radicals. You know, so it's like the people that are just like, you know, have dressed it all up as some kind of like, you know, political, ideological, free speech debate. It's like those guys are lost. Yeah, you know, it's like, you know, maybe some of them will come back, but it's like, you know, what are you going to do? Shout at them for the next 20 years? It's like, what's going to work against them is general, or might not, but it's hopefully work against them is general societal pressure, norms. You know,
yeah. Well, I guess
it's difficult to talk about these days because we're in the world of no norms.
Of course, but I guess you know, this has been something I've been thinking about as well recently, and you know, coming back, I use the word gay as a good example because I just don't hear it anymore. But how many people have said, I'm not going to use that because it creates a stigma and it's not fair for people who are part of the LGBTQIA plus banner. But how many people are doing it because of fear of social reprisal? Yeah, and I guess you'll never know. But I guess bringing it back to bipolar disorder,
the thing we're supposed to be talking about.
So why do you think bipolar disorder and mental health in general is still seen as fair play? I guess for stigma.
I think because there's a couple of things. One, because there's always going to be people who want to belittle people who are, for want of a better word, weaker than them. You know, I think a major thing is that it's not a visible thing, right? So, you know, if you saw somebody standing in the street, you know, pointing and laughing at a wheelchair user, you know, I think that's quite hard. But it's like, you know, because people can see that person's in a wheelchair. Yeah. But you don't carry around your bipolar certificate, you know, stamped by your psychiatrist and your release papers, you know, from the hospital. Yeah.
I guess it's easier to see the struggle.
Yeah, so that's
for a physical disability.
Yeah, I think a lot of people probably, sadly enough, I think a lot of people don't believe it because I guess you can't see it. Yeah. They'll say, like, you know, if you get your leg chopped off, somebody's not going to go, you've got two legs, mate. I don't believe this. Yeah, you'd be like, I've clearly got one leg. You know? Whereas if you say I've got a mental illness, a lot of people think, oh, you're just not trying hard enough, or you're just a bit. It's like the thing about depression, or you're just a bit sad. Cheer up. It's not that bad. It's like it's not. I think if people, like, some people can't conceive of it because they've never felt it. Some people can't conceive of it because they fundamentally lack imagination, and that's their fault, right? Some people just have never. It's like some people don't know what it's like to be skint, so they can't conceive of it. So, why can't you just get a job? Yeah, you know, or they don't know what it's like to live in a bad area. Why don't you just move?
Have you tried having more money?
We tried having more money. I found that's worked for me. It's like, so you get these really intelligent, like emotionally intelligent, reasonable people saying these stupid things because it's completely out with their realm of experience, you know. So, and that's the thing about raising awareness and stigma. I'm not a big fan of the whole raising awareness economy type thing, but it's like, and I think people think they can get away with it. Because it's invisible, and I think there's a fundamental, still general societal misunderstanding about mental illness. Even the words around these funnily enough, these are the words that do annoy me. One of the main phrases that annoys me is mental health. Okay, and I'll explain that because people say, "Oh, I'm having problems with my mental health," and you go, "Right, I get that." I always think, right, to make it make sense, compare it with physical health. I've got bad mental health. I've got bad physical health. Right. What's wrong with your physical health? Oh, it's bad. But what is it though? Have you got like a?
So it's too vague.
It's too vague, and it's like, and also it's like it's not quite. We haven't quite got the words right yet. We haven't quite got the language right. It's like saying, oh, I've got bad country, I've got bad politics. Oh, I've got really bad economy. You know, it's like, you mean the economy is bad? Or that you mean that your mental health is bad? Why? Because you've got a mental illness, or have you got like a neurodiversity, or have you, are you neurodiverse? Sorry, or it's like, what is it? It's too catch-all, you know. It's like, and also this is just absolutely unreasonable, and from a personal perspective, is that just linguistically it really annoys me. Okay, because it doesn't quite make sense. It's like, think of it, if you're going to the doctor and you went, "Oh, doctor, I've got physical health." What? Well, yeah, you've all got physical health. Yeah, but you've got, is it good physical? Is it bad physical? It's like, you know, I've got mental health. You know, I've got to take a day off because of my mental health. That's not quite right, but you know what I mean. I can't even really fully describe it properly. It's like, I think we need better words. We need better ways of describing it. And what I was trying to get to, sorry, is that I think we fundamentally need to stop seeing physical health and mental health as two separate things. Yeah, because they're not. They both feed into each other, obviously, you know. So it's like, if you're feeling physically bad, you can feel mentally bad. If you feel mentally bad, you can feel but it's your health. Yes. You know, it's like, so I think by sort of like, and this even happens within the health services as well. It's like, oh, sorry, the mental health department's over there, and we're the physical health guys. So we actually get more money because like the physical health's more important, you know. And it's like, people care about physical health. So if you've got mental health, which I hate, have you got mental health? And it's like, what? Have you got car? You know, have you got house? And it seems like a grammar thing as much as anything else. That's why I'm saying it's unreasonable, because I find it grammatically really annoying. I know. Yes, I think I when I hear people say, "Oh, I've got issues with the mental health," or "I've got the mental health," I guess there's still, for some people, that idea that having any mental health, like the hearing the phrase mental health automatically means a negative, whereas we've all got mental health, and it can go up and down just like physical health. For sure. And for me, it's 100% me being too pernickety, because I'm much further down the road than most people are when it comes to thinking about these things, because I have these things, you know. So it's like, the fact that people, it should be recognised that the fact that people are even talking about it is progress, and that's good. So they can, if they call it, "I've got giraffe health," then I suppose why not go for it? Go for your life, knock yourself out, you know. But at least it's being talked about, and it's got some kind of name. It's maybe not the best name, and hopefully at some point in the future we'll have, in the way that, you know, you wouldn't say like, "Oh, I've got the cancer." Well, you might say, "I've got the cancer," especially in Scotland, but then it's like, that can't be the end of the conversation. You know, I've got. So do you think then we need to get better at being more specific and acknowledging specific health conditions then? So say, you know, we're instead of saying, "Oh, I've got the mental health," saying, for example, my depression's been really bad lately, or I think so, feeling so anxious, you know. I think so. Being clearer on it. Yeah, exactly. Because I think then that will sort of intrinsically start to educate people that there are differences between these things. You know, like, whether it's, you know, depression and bipolar, you know, schizoaffective disorder, or whether it's like something like, you know, you know, not conflating that with like autism, that kind of stuff. No. But it's part of the same, you know, world. You know, and it's like, autism's actually a really good example, because it's like, I think that's an example of like a condition that's got a great comms team, right? Great communications. Autism's got great comms, right?
Yeah.
Because it has gone from being this kind of slightly kind of on the fringe kind of thing that people didn't really know about to being this thing that's front and center in a lot of people's social media. It's very out and proud, which I think is great. But we need that kind of energy with, you know, like things like bipolar or schizoaffective disorder or depression or, you know, those kind of things. It's like, where's the, you know, where are the memes? You know, the funny kind of supportive, positive memes.
And normalizing
all, like ADHD is another one. ADHD and autism, you know, I've got great optics. You know, and that matters.
Yeah.
Because people see that stuff and they go, oh, right, that's cool. And it's like it becomes a bit less serious and it becomes a bit more normal. Because, like you say, it becomes normalised. But it's like we need better comms, basically, you know, as a sort of, you know, not a movement, because it's not a movement, but as a, you know, it's like, I think, and again, this is why, again, going back to what I was saying at the beginning of like trying to reclaim some of these words, it's like, you know, some of what I got up to when I was manic was objectively hilarious. Like, it's like I got into some really weird scrapes, man. Like the kind of stuff that still it still honestly makes me laugh. I mean, some of it was desperate and dangerous and, it was, and all that. I mean, we know all that stuff. Yeah. But I think we should also not be too sort of like, you should be like, do you know what I did once? It's like, and people like that because they go, what? And you go, I know, it's not. And it's like, I think.
I guess, you know, I think sometimes that lack of understanding can make people who genuinely don't want to get it wrong afraid to talk about it.
And that's fair. That's why it's incumbent upon people like me to sort of do that kind of thing, or people like, you know, if that's how you feel, it should be combated, because you're never going to get that person, because what you're doing is you're saying to that person, it's all right to have a wee bit of a laugh about this. Some of it is actually quite funny, you know. It's like, as long as we don't think it's all funny, etc., etc.
As long as you're not, it's not making fun of the.
So you're not making fun of
condition.
You're not making fun of the condition, and you're not making fun of the person. You know, you're just recognizing that some of the scrapes you get into when you're manic with bipolar disorder are unbelievable, and that's one of the nice things about the support groups. You know, is that you can say, do you know what I did? And people go, whoa. And they go, I've got one better. I once did this. Yeah. You know, because it's a bit like, because it's a bit kind of, it's relaxing, because like when you, especially when you come off of like a manic episode, for me, certainly there's a huge amount of guilt, shame, remorse, that kind of stuff, because of things you've said, the way you've treated people. And that's another thing as well. It's like, because and that's part of the stigma too. Is because it was you there standing there saying these things. A lot of people don't accept that it's a mental illness. They think it's you.
Yeah, okay.
I've lost a lot of friends because of that, because they've gone, I'm sorry, that's unacceptable. I'm out of here. And I'm like, I was ill, I've got a certificate from a doctor, you know, whatever. I've got a prescription, not interested.
And maybe they understand that, but it's just, they just can't separate it.
Exactly. And yeah, I think of course these are, you know, intelligent people. They understand it intellectually, but I think they're probably just too angry at me, or scared. Or just, you know, really off at what I said, you know, and what I did and how I acted, and I've got to live with that. And that's one of the things. And I think going back to stigma, the reason that they feel that way in the first place is because they don't know enough about what it is, or it's not even like a knowledge thing. It's they don't feel it. You know, it's like, you know, if somebody was really ill and in a lot of pain and they shouted and screamed at somebody, you know, they're not going to go, oh, I'm never talking to that person again. Yeah. Because they go, well, they're in a hospital. They're in a lot of pain. It was a
unique situation.
Yeah. It's not them. It's like it's an expression of a part of them, for sure. But, you know, they didn't mean it. Yeah. Not really. Yeah. You know, and it's like, and you go, well, you know, but you've just got to live with that, because you can't make people forgive you. And also that's another word that gets, even I do it. I'm like, forgive, what do you mean? Why should I be forgiven? I didn't do it on purpose. Like, I know it was me, and it seems like it's not, because if somebody gets like cancer or diabetes or, you know, Alzheimer's or something, or maybe not Alzheimer's, but you know, if somebody's got like, you know, really sick, really serious diabetes, they don't walk up to their mum and call her the C word. You know what I mean? It's like, diabetes doesn't make you do that. But if you did it because of the diabetes, it was the diabetes that made you do it. Yeah. You know?
Do you think then, it sounds like this has been the case, at least for you, where people haven't been able to maybe not even not understand it, but not, like not comprehend it. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes there's the logical brain, then there's the emotive brain, and sometimes the emotive brain just can't listen to the logical brain.
I think a lot of people can, perhaps, I mean, I suppose you have to ask them to be sure if they could explain it. I think a lot of people can't or won't conceptualize of a disease affecting your character. Mm-hmm. Because again, I think people think like your personality and your character and your brain is there in your head, and everything else is separate, you know, unless you've got like brain cancer or a tumor or something like that, you know. But like, it's, I think I think some people can't. I mean, by the same token, I should say that some people, I mean, I said some terrible things to some of my best friends in the world, and you know, they were annoyed at me for a while, right enough, and fair enough. I get that, but you know, not forever, and we're all close again, you know. So it's not everyone.
Has that been an education for them then to kind of learn to put these? Is it that they've enough time has passed that they were able to move on, or is it that they can understand a bit better?
I don't know. I mean, I think one of my pals moved on pretty quickly, but then he's got a close family member with a neurodivergence, a neurodiversity. So I think that helped. It hindered at the beginning, but I think it also helped in his like, right, because he's got experience of that. I think if you don't have any experience of that, another one of my friends, his brother's got Down syndrome. You know, and another one of my friends is just cool and he never sort of like, you know, never bothered. So no, the other ones aren't cool, but you know what I mean? It's like, but then I didn't really attack him in the same way as I did those ones. It's funny. But yeah, I don't really know why it is. I sort of lost my train of thought there, sorry. What were we talking about?
We were just talking about, I'd asked about how, you know, do you think that from that group of friends, like, was it more that they had been sort of educated or had a bit of a chance to understand the nature of the manic episodes and how they might have made you behave?
I think a lot of people, I think most people, like say 90% of people, once they really thought about it and either I explained it or they found out somewhat, I don't know. It's like most people were cool. Some people will never be cool. But I can count on one hand who those are, you know. And again, this is the thing, it's like we don't have the language for it because like I still think it's because they've not accepted my apology, but then now as I get better and better and better, as in get more well and more well, I start to go, well, why do I owe them an apology? You know, or at least more than one, you know, because I think you say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. And I think that's fair enough, right? And I think if somebody doesn't accept that, then you got to stop apologising at some point.
There's only so much.
There's only so many times you can say, I'm sorry, you know, especially if it, you know, was the result of a severe, debilitating and dangerous mental illness. You know, and if they don't understand that, then that really is fundamentally their problem, not mine. Yeah.
So, we're kind of on the topic of stigma, and it's a really meaty topic.
Yeah, exactly.
What is something about bipolar disorder that you wish everyone knew?
It's a good question. I think if I had to choose one thing, it would be that the person you see in front of you isn't the person you know. The person that's doing these things and saying these things isn't the person.
Are you talking about when they're in a
manic state or even a particularly depressed state? You know, they might say things, they might do things, they might appear in a way that is unusual and scary and abusive and aggressive and inappropriate. But they are basically being piloted by somebody else. You know, their meatbag body has been overtaken by intruders, and they've got control of the wheel. You know, it's I'm really, 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 you know, sort of wringing every last second out of this metaphor, but you know what I mean. It's like it's not them, and they don't mean it, and then. So that would be thing number one. I think probably it's hard to say what's the most important, but from my experience, and I can only really speak from my experience when it comes to this kind of stuff, I would say that. And secondly, the only other thing I would say is just, you know, just know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if you've got an opinion about something
Mm-hmm.
or about somebody
Mm-hmm.
that's got a mental illness, then be educated about that,
Mm-hmm.
or don't have an opinion.
Totally. Okay, we're coming up to the end now. So what would you say to someone who, and I guess this is without wishing to put you on a pedestal too much, because like you said, you're not an expert in bipolar disorder as a whole, but I guess based on your experience and as a member of staff at Bipolar Scotland, what would you say to someone who maybe suspects they have some of the symptoms of bipolar disorder but hasn't been diagnosed yet, or maybe sees it in a loved one?
Go to the doctor immediately. Immediately. Go to your GP. If that doesn't work, phone the community mental health team. If that doesn't work, I don't know, pitch a tent outside psychiatrist's office. Because one of the most dangerous things in relation to bipolar disorder is misdiagnosis, lack of diagnosis, or diagnosis taking far too long to happen. On average, it's about 10 years for people to get a diagnosis, bipolar diagnosis. For me, it was 24 years.
Wow.
Before I got my diagnosis. On my third manic episode, my third section, my third hospitalisation in the secure unit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you think that, you know, first of all, actually, do you know what? Sorry, I don't go to the doctor. Phone Bipolar Scotland, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, first job one, then we'll help you sort it out. You know, because the thing is if you go, this is the problem. I slightly take back what I said. And I said it in such a cool, dramatic way as well. Just I've ruined it.
Yeah, that gravitas is out the window.
That's it. Edit. Yeah. Go to bipolarscotland.org.uk.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a phone number, we've got an email address, we've got a contact form. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, if that's your thing. You know, speak to us and we'll be able to help you, you know, because the problem with going straight to the doctor to debate my own advice is a lot of the time there's a couple of things. No matter how good your doctor is, and I'm lucky to have a great GP, who luckily enough has a background in psychiatry, you know, but that's not the norm. You know, I've been to other GPs. Like one of the best advice from a GP I ever got was, you know, just if you're feeling a wee bit low, just, you know, don't watch the news and stop and smell the roses once in a while. That was his professional prescription.
Okay.
Not that long ago either, maybe 2017.
Oh dear.
You know, so it wasn't like 1986.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, if you go, the problem with going to the doctor and saying, I think I might have this, is that they will say, what makes you think that? And if you don't have the right language to express that, then they'll most probably just think you're depressed. And they'll give you antidepressants, which is very dangerous for people who've got bipolar disorder, because antidepressants can push you into a manic phase if you are prescribed them. So it's like that happened to me for years and years and years. Go to the doctor, don't feel you're depressed, here's some antidepressants. Antidepressants don't work. Oh, here's a different type of antidepressants. Here's a different dosage of antidepressants, blah, 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 blah. You know, because really a big thing the doctors are looking for is, have you had a manic episode? That's the main diagnostic sort of criteria for getting bipolar disorder. Or something I should say as well is have you had that manic episode?
Yeah.
You only need to have had one to be diagnosed. But there is another form of bipolar disorder which doesn't involve manic episodes, which is called bipolar 2, which I should have mentioned at the beginning. Apologies. And that is basically you get everything everything in bipolar 1 except the really high-end delusions and mania stuff. That's even harder to diagnose because you don't get that.
It's not as intense.
It's not as intense, so it goes under the radar. So if you say I'm feeling a wee bit up, they go, oh, whatever. And a lot of people don't go to the doctor when they're feeling good.
Yeah.
You know, so yes. So that's the thing. So it's a sneaky little blighter, and it can hide in plain sight quite easily. You know, but I think to answer your original question properly this time, if you feel like you've got this thing, or you know somebody that might have it, then yeah, Bipolar Scotland, first step, and you know somebody there will talk to you, give you advice. Help you.
People who are listening to this may be thinking, I want to find out more or learn more about it. Where can they go?
Best place to go is bipolarscotland.org.uk, and there you will find our email address, which is info@bipolarscotland.org.uk, our phone number, which I can't remember offhand, a contact form, which will go through to members of the team as well, and you'll also find links to our socials on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So yeah, and if you're, if you Google Bipolar Scotland, Instagram or whatever, Bipolar Scotland, Facebook, that'll get you there too.
Fantastic, Pete. Thank you so much for your time.
No bother.
It's been a real insight into bipolar disorder. Thank you.
You're welcome. Cheers. Thanks for having me.